Well, thank you all very much, and good morning. The 111th American Ethical Union Assembly Business Meeting will now come to order. Welcome all. Before we begin our business, I want to take a couple moments to celebrate a few things. For one, by several different metrics, this is the strongest assembly we've had since returning in person since the pandemic. Not just, go ahead. Our delegate count is up by raw numbers, but also the depth of representation behind those delegate counts. In the past, we've had oftentimes one delegate from each society representing their full slate of delegates, but by metrics of full delegate counts as well as individual delegates that are able to be here in person and virtually on Zoom, it's our strongest assembly that we've had so far. So thank you all for being here to help celebrate our 150th and the 111th meeting. Another round of applause. An additional thanks needs to go out to two very special people who are up here. We have two officers whose terms are ending. Liz Singer has served as our treasurer the past several years. Anyone who sat in that chair knows it's largely invisible work. Liz has done that work carefully and diligently, and she's leaving the union on firmer financial footing because of it. Stan Horwitz has served as our vice president. The vice president role is largely defined by what needs doing, not what hasn't been done, let's say that. Stepping in, filling gaps, carrying whatever the president cannot carry. Stan has done that consistently and generously. Liz and Stan, thank you very much on behalf of the entire assembly. We are very grateful. With that, I'm going to have everyone up on this table introduce themselves so you know who we are. Let's go ahead and start with Greg at that end, and then we'll move down.
My name is Greg Bonin. I'm the AEU's Developmental Director and an Ethical Culture Leader.
My name is Rhiannon Johnson. I'm the AEU Secretary, and I'm also the representative for Westchester, New York.
Yes, I forgot to specify, please, names, pronouns, your role, and your home society, if relevant.
My home society is Asheville.
Scott Wright, he, him. I am the president of the AEU, the representative of St. Louis.
Hi, my name is Liz Singer, treasurer, and I'm a New York Society for Ethical Culture representative.
Hi, Stan Horwitz, he, him pronouns, and Philadelphia Ethical Society representative.
Good morning. My name is Trang Duong. I am, pronouns she, her. I'm on the AEU Board Development Committee and co-chair of the President's Council, and I'm a delegate from the Washington Ethical Society.
Okay, thank you all. Last words of thanks I want to give before we really get into it is this assembly is a lot of work, and that is thanks to our volunteer assembly committee, Steve Serling, Ellen McBride, co-chairs. They have a whole team. Let's all give them a round of applause as well. And with that, I'd like to invite Steve up to give a brief orientation and welcoming into our space for those of you not familiar with the building.
Thank you. All right, good morning. Welcome to NYSEC. My name is Steve Serling. I'm the board vice president here at the New York Society. So welcome to the society if you've never been here. To those who came yesterday, welcome back. So a couple quick things, just as a reminder, anytime you're in the building, please wear your name tag just for safety purposes and make sure those are worn at all times. We do have water. The water bottle filler stations are on the elevator bays, so you can fill up. Hopefully you brought refillables, but if not, we do have some cups that are compostable out there. So name tags, waters, bathrooms, that's key. So fifth floor, we have the male bathrooms with a single-use bathroom, and on the fourth floor, there is a female bathroom. So those are the closest ones while we're in the business meeting. But again, there's also bathrooms down in the lower level, both men and female. And then also the snacks. So we want to keep you fed. So there's going to be bagels out until they're gone. We're refilling the coffee. You guys are clearly coffee drinkers. And locks. You guys went through all the locks. But we have on the fifth floor, 504, and I want to thank Richard for giving up part of his office. That is the designated snack bar. So we have a whole bunch of snacks and coffee throughout the assembly. So you can go there. There's couches if you just need a break. And need some nourishment. So that's that on there. And then after the business meeting, we have the NES lunch. So we're going to feed you again. It's a Lebanese lunch down in Social Hall, which is the lower level. So you'll be up here till noon-ish, and then we're going to go down and have an NES presentation and lunch. And then we're coming back up to the fourth and fifth floors for breakout sessions in the afternoon. A few other presentations. And then the last thing I just want to mention is our awards banquet. Our awards banquet is absolutely packed. It's technically sold out, but in ethical fashion, we have folks who still are trying to sign up. So we're trying not to turn people away, especially if they came from outside of New York City. So when you get down there tonight, please fill in every seat. We cannot have gaps, or we're going to have to turn folks away. So show some ethical love and get comfy. All right? And so we can celebrate everyone who should be celebrated in the now. Because today's kind of assembly theme is about the now. All right? Have a wonderful business meeting.
Thank you, Steve. All right, at this time, before we dive into the business agenda, I'd like to invite Greg Bonin, our developmental director, to give us some opening remarks.
Hi folks, as I said before, my name is Greg Bonin. I'm the AEU's developmental director and I'm an ethical culture leader with the American Ethical Union. I want to first extend a warm welcome to our society and affiliate delegates, our AEU board directors, past AEU board presidents, ethical culture leaders, and guests who comprise this 111th Assembly of the American Ethical Union. This year, we celebrate 150 years of ethical culture. It was said earlier this weekend that a group that's been around for 150 years has had to reinvent itself a few times, and we are in such a time. We are here because we all care about the future of the ethical culture movement. We may not always agree on every strategy, but I hear from everyone a desire to build something that will endure. At its core, the AEU exists as the organizing institution that serves our federation of member societies and the ethical culture movement. The AEU is an institution through which our societies can choose to act together. None of our societies is exactly the same. Each has its own history, strengths, challenges, and aspirations. But our future is shared. It's a future we are moving toward together. We're about to enter into the second year of an intentional period of rebuilding trust and growing our shared capacity after years of disruptions. And humor me, if you felt disrupted in the last 5 years or so, just raise your hand or wiggle in your seat or do something. Yeah, okay, lots of hands, of course. So Octavia Butler reminds us that all you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. You may have heard developmental a lot this year. Developmental director, developmental period, developmental plan. When we say developmental, what we mean is that we are being intentional and deliberate about the way we change. As you hear today's motions that represent the kind of change that we want for ourselves, I hope you'll remember that we are here to create, nurture, and inspire ethical humanist communities to foster a world that is democratic, compassionate, just, and sustainable. I hope you'll remember that we are committed to nurturing the unique worth of every person, building relationships that bring out the best in others and ourselves, and enhancing the human capacity to create a better world. And we're here to do it together. We're changing together. I want to open the meeting with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for your service today. Thank you for your dedication to your societies. And thank you for your commitment to a flourishing ethical culture movement.
Thank you, Greg. Next, we'll do a general overview of discussion and voting processes per Robert's Rules of Order and the special rules approved by the board on June 13th. Our parliamentarian, Stephen Anderson, is on the Zoom call. If we have procedural questions, we will reach out to Steve during the meeting as needed. Rhiannon, our secretary, will now give an overview of some key points.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so just some highlights from the special rules that were in your delegate packets. All amendments have already been submitted, so we're not going to have any amendments from the floor. Any items that were submitted with amendments, we'll have a discussion on both the originally proposed and the amended motion, and then both will end up on the ballot, and the ballot will be sent to you electronically using the email that you used to sign up with your delegate registration. So for non-balloted items, the chair, which is Scott, will ask if anyone objects to passing the motion. So for example, when the minutes come up, we'll call, are there any objections? And if there are no objections, then the motion will pass automatically by consent. If there are objections, then we will call specifically for, like raise your hand if you're for, raise your hand if you're against. And so if you're attending virtually, you'll want to raise your Zoom hand. Don't do physical hands. That's not going to be easy for me to count. So if you can raise your Zoom hand on Zoom. And then if you are in the room, then physical hands, and then we'll count that way. Again, everyone in person and Zoom will use the election buddy system for balloted agenda items. So those are your like affiliate business matters, society business matters, budget, officers, bylaws. All of those will be on the electronic ballot. And voting will end at 11:59 p.m. tonight, so Eastern time. And so there is help available in person or online during that time. So if you don't receive your ballot or you have issues with voting, let us know. And you can email delegate-support@aeu.org at any time for us to help you. And so at any time, if you believe some process or procedure is happening incorrectly, all you have to do is raise your hand and say point of order, or you put point of order in the chat and we'll stop the business meeting and address the point of order. And so Scott, the chair, will call on you to resolve that before we proceed. Are there any clarifying questions on the process for today? Yes. So the question for those on Zoom is, when will the results be announced? So the voting closes at midnight tonight, and then tomorrow we will certify the results and write a report and send that out to delegates tomorrow. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Do we still need to do a determination of quorum? Okay. So we will move on from quorum. Quorum has been set. Excellent.
Well, yeah, I will say how many people are here just for the record. So the delegate count is, per our bylaws, determined by the number of delegates who represent more than half of the total eligible votes from member organizations, in person or virtually. So there are 63 total votes allowed, and so right now we have 52 votes represented. So we satisfy quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhiannon. We will now move on to approval of today's agenda. Do you have anything to say on the agenda?
Yep, so the agenda link is dropped into the chat already. And the hard copy to the agenda has been distributed in person in your delegate packets. So I put a motion on the table to approve the meeting agenda. Can I get a second for that motion? Thank you, Stan. All right. Are there any, I'll let you do that.
Yeah, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any objections to the motion or any corrections to the agenda? Just pausing to see online. Okay, if there are no corrections, the agenda stands approved. Thank you very much. Secretary will distribute the minutes of the 110th Assembly business meeting. The reading and approval of minutes is the next item.
Thank you. Let me get the link to the minutes. Sorry. Okay, the minutes are now in the chat. And again, the minutes are in your physical delegate packets as well in the room. So I put a motion to approve the 110th Assembly Business Meeting minutes. Can I get a second? Thank you. And your name? Laura. Thank you. Any corrections to the minutes?
Any objections or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Okay, seeing none, the minutes stand approved by consent. Thank you. Next item of business is recognition of receipt of committee reports. AEU Secretary will distribute the AEU committee reports. So these are not in the packet, but they are available in the delegate report online, and Rhiannon has just put the committee reports in the Zoom chat. Did you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, so the electronic copy of the reports were previously provided to all the delegates. We had to cut a little bit of paper to, save some trees. So this is intentional this year to, specifically call this out on the agenda, make sure that we have visibility to all the hard work that committees are doing for the AEU. So I put a motion on the table to receive the AEU committee reports as presented.
Can we get a second? We say all Ken. Thank you, Ken. Any objections or corrections to the receipt of committee reports by the Assembly? Okay, hearing no objections, the reports are received and will be filed for our records. Thank you all very much for getting through those administrative items at the beginning of our meeting here. We now come to, we're going to start our affiliate and society business matters, and we're at item 8, the motion to ratify actions described in the National Ethical Service Report. Before we take up this motion, there is a procedural matter to place before the Assembly. The NES submitted a revised version of its report on July 14th, which was after the July 11th deadline established by Rule 1 of our Special Rules of Order. Under those rules, amendments to agenda items were due 14 days prior to the Assembly. Now, the Assembly may suspend our Special Rules of Order by a 2/3 vote. So we recognize that NES conducts its own annual business meeting within this Assembly, and that this revised report adds substantive new content, including new trustees, expanded activity summaries on child rights advocacy, interfaith representation and platforms, and a future goals section. So it's beyond just formatting of the original report. I would like to now entertain a motion to suspend the rules. This motion will not be up for debate or discussion.
Thank you. All right, yeah, so I'll just officially say I move to suspend the special rules of order insofar as they relate to the submission deadline in Rule 1 to permit the revised National Ethical Service Report dated July 14th to be considered in place of the version published on July 25th and linked on the ballot in place of that version. Notice to delegates that it's already been revised was previously received via email on July 17th. And then I see
Jackie seconded. Thank you.
Okay, the motion to suspend Rule 1 for the purposes of item 8 on the agenda is on the table. The motion is not debatable. It requires a 2/3 vote of delegates present. Are there any objections to suspending our special rules and allowing the updated NES report on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended for this item only. The revised report is before the Assembly. We will proceed with item number 8 under our ordinary procedure and agenda. We will now hear the report from our affiliate organization, the National Ethical Service. Audrey Kindred.
Excuse me. Just want to add that I will be acting as timekeeper. So I'll say time. You have 10 minutes, Audrey, correct?
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yes,
you. So, hello. I, Audrey Kindred, act as the president of the National Ethical Service, also as a leader in training in the American Ethical Union. And I wanted to present today, open our business meeting, which we do each year within this business meeting. I wanted to include all of you, letting you know that you're all members of the National Ethical Service, as are all of our members in all of our societies. And that's just comes naturally with being part of the American Ethical Union. So one of the things that we wanted to do was share that we've really upped our game. We've really been able to invigorate our processes. We've been meeting regularly. We've been activating, and we've been building our trustees board, our collective of trustees. So I wanted to acknowledge some of our new trustee members. Dr. Ann Clayson as clergy, come stand for me. Marlene Williamson, back in the back, who is a member of the Brooklyn Society and a staff member of New York Society. And previous to that, Muriel Tillinghast, who is also over there, a member of the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture. One of the things that we've put a lot of our attention to collectively, and many of you will remember, last year we made a resolution for ethical culture to really stand up for the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And within our human rights framework of really valuing human rights in the depth of our movement, we really wanted to highlight children's rights and ally to that in an activated way. So we have done that. I just want to acknowledge Muriel Tillinghast's leadership in that. With her leadership and collaboration with the NGO Committee on Children's Rights New York, we've created a coalition of children's rights, an ethical coalition. And what that means is that we want to invite all of you to be part of our team of really working to activate in your own communities the advocacy for children's rights. That could be platforms that you lead in your societies. It could be networking with us in ways that link up to World Children's Day, which is November 20th. And so on that front, here in New York, we will be. Last year, we hosted a World Children's Day event with hundreds of school children coming into the building and many experts on child rights speaking, as well as youth speakers. This year, on November 19th, in honor of November 20th, World Children's Day, we will again be hosting a massive Children's Day event, bringing in many youth speakers and working with people internationally. We've also been, I want to say, Dr. Ann Clayson as clergy and myself have been visiting monthly events at the United Nations Interfaith Church called Tillman Chapel, where we represent ethical culture at the pulpit with many other religions of the world in an interfaith vision of the United Nations. And within that interfaith work, I also want to acknowledge the Vice President of the National Ethical Service, Kurt Johnson. Dr. Kurt Johnson has been working with a movement called the Deep and Rapid Transformation Convergence, looking at how our commitment to the sustainability goals of the United Nations must be augmented not just through strategy and thinking, but really through heart devotion and rethinking the world in sustainable ways that impact our embodiment on the earth and our spirituality on the earth and our connectedness to all life. His work is so important and has grown itself through the ethical mycelial web of the world in really profound ways. I would love to tell any of you more about that along the weekend. And I'd like to ask you for approval of our growth, our development, and our future plans. So we're working also on something that we'd like to share with all of you, which is a calendar of values-based, I'll call them holy days. That's what holidays is based on, but holy in the level of ethical culture. So what does it mean to really stand up for Human Rights Day? What does it mean to stand up for World Children's Day? How do we activate these values-based days in ways that augment the consciousness of our whole communities, the towns we live in, the places, the people that we're in dialogue with? So this is really about a world agenda. And I'll just say that it's a real honor to represent the National Ethical Service and to share it with you as much as you want it and are open to it and want to create the dialogue with National Ethical Service, because you are National Ethical Service by being ethical culture. So may I have a motion to approve our vision, agenda, and our annual report? Thank you, Carolyn Parker. May I have a second? Thank you, Stan. And would all in favor?
We need to open
Oh.
for if there are any clarifying questions
Thank you.
for Audrey on the report.
Let me offer my gratitude for the flexibility that you gave to us in accepting the second report. It's much more detailed, and I felt it would be much more informative to all of you about what's happening so that you could get as deeply involved as you want. Shall we open it up for vote? You call it.
I see a hand on the floor, Eric Sandhusen.
Oh. Good
Audrey,
question.
can you repeat the question?
Yes, so the question is, are we independently funded National Ethical Service, or are we funded through the American Ethical Union? We're independently funded, and I wanted to acknowledge that we received a very generous donation this year from the daughter of Rose Walker. Rose Walker is, many of you know her by reputation. She was a very important developer of the National Ethical Service, and in her name, we have the Rose Walker Grant, through which we do fund different initiatives. Thank you. Yes?
Is there a latest, newest priority for children?
Yeah, so
Repeat the question, Audrey.
the question is there a new vision for children? And are you talking as compared to last year? Okay, so last year we really wanted to galvanize this resolution where we could all unify in a commitment not to just our children, but the world's children, and bring that into every aspect of ethical culture. That would mean like our Sunday schools, our platforms, our nation conversation, the ways that we might advocate in our own governmental systems. So I'll just say one thing briefly, which is the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child is ratified all over the world by nations. The one outlier is the United States. And there are complicated reasons for that. We're a complicated country. But the solution to that is really us being the grassroots, really advocating it for the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child as a religious body, exemplifying that for other religious bodies, for other educational bodies? Can we grow this movement? And that really is a networking. It's knowing that all the world's children are actually facing problems, old problems. War is an old problem. Starvation is an old problem. Poverty is an old problem. And new problems, the problems of our mental health and AI hygiene. These are pressing questions. We are literally experimenting on our children. 2 years old, we have them in, with screens in their faces. So we have a generation that's going to need us in ways we can't even predict. The question of how we listen to these needs and respond to them is urgent. It is all of our business. It is the world's future, and we have to take really, really good care of it. And this is beyond our families, right? This is all children are our children to care for on this earth. How can we do it? And how we talk to each other about this, and that we talk to each other about this, is where we start. So let's activate those conversations in our societies in a sort of both a mundane way, a formal way, an exhilarating way, and an activated way. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hello? Okay, thank you, Audrey. Okay, so this was meant to be clarifying questions on the motion of business. I do see there's some questions in the chat and on Zoom curious about NES and their history and what they do, but more of that
I'll just
can come.
say we're hosting the luncheon. Please feel welcome to come to that, and also reach out to us. You can reach out to nationalethical.service@gmail.com.
Thank you, Audrey. So we've heard the motion from the affiliate. There has a second. After moving past clarifying questions, we are meant to enter a discussion. If you wish to discuss the motion, per our discussion rules, we will be doing alternating speakers for and against the item. This is our process for all items that we vote on. Each person will have 90 seconds to speak for a total of 9 minutes of discussion. So at this time, if you would like to speak for or against the motion to pass approval for the NES report, please raise your hand, and the secretary will put you on the speakers list. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Carolyn Parker?
Should I bring a mic to her?
We will, yeah. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Okay, seeing none. The first person to speak for the motion is Carolyn. Can we get a microphone back to Carolyn? Well,
1, 2.
back in the corner, yes, thank you. 90 seconds, Carolyn.
90 seconds to say, please vote for this motion. It is largely a pro forma exercise. We are required by the United Nations to seek the approval of our members, you, for the work that we have done in this past year. So help us retain our credentials and vote for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. If there are no delegates that wish to speak on the against side of the motion discussion is now concluded. Thank you all. You'll see the motion for this report on the election buddy ballot. So is it right that we're not taking a hands up vote right now? This will be on your election buddy ballot by email, and so you will vote there, and all results will be we need votes by midnight tonight, and then we'll report out tomorrow on the results. So thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Audrey. One more round of applause. Okay, next item on the agenda, we will now hear from the Chicago Ethical Humanist Circle to propose a resolution calling on all United States officials to respect human rights. Ken Novak, please provide your report and the resulting motion.
I'm Ken Novak, he, him.
Yeah, make sure the mic is right in front of your mouth.
I'm Ken Novak, he, him, president of the Chicago Ethical Humanist Circle, an AEU board member, former treasurer, and VP of the AEU. First of all, I'll echo Greg in thanking you for your commitment to the work of this movement that brings you here today and brings your attention to what we discuss and ultimately decide today. And I'm going to ask that you endorse, by a yes vote, Chicago's resolution calling on all United States officials to respect human rights. The American Ethical Union formally endorsed the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1 month after its adoption in December 1948. Understandably so, as Article 1 of the UDHR reads like an excerpt from an ethical culture platform. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Our predecessors resolved to take action to publicize the declaration, also to study remedial measures where the declaration is not enforced in the United States. With the understanding that the history of this country is replete with governmental violations of human rights, we are in a period in which once again the inhumane is tolerated and even celebrated, in which the formerly inalienable is now conditional, contingent on citizenship, status, or favor. Of course, neither the UDHR nor subsequent international agreements are enforceable, but they're the right thing to do. And we, I argue, are the appropriate communicators. This is not a fad of the month club for us, issue for us. It's central to what we choose to believe and to act on in our ethical lives, in our larger communities as well. I also argue that this campaign feeds two birds with one seed, that being known as the human rights people, as vocal local advocates for a resumption of respect for human rights, will enable others to see us not only more often, but more clearly. As the Friends are known as the anti-war people, we are the human rights and responsibilities people, and people should know that. In a few minutes, we'll talk about Northeast Indiana Ethical Humanists, a provisional member of this union requesting full membership. I'm sure some of you have worked tables for your communities at farmers markets or at peaceable assemblies for the redress of grievances. The opportunity to do that at Fort Wayne for NEIEH, Northeast Indiana, etc. This spring for the No Kings demonstrations and Not My President demonstrations presented a challenge: how to communicate non-theistic community to a new place. Thelonious Monk once said that writing about jazz is like dancing about architecture. And talking about ethical culture is a little like that too. At worst, we sound like Moonies. At best, we're just not communicating what we all know our communities do. But by centering human rights and responsibilities, we had blow-ups of Article 1 on either side of our table, and we had buttons and refrigerator magnets. And we started by saying that we're a community beyond belief, and that we center human rights and responsibilities. And we found that engaging people around these issues was awfully close to a coffee hour conversation. People stayed longer than just taking the candy. A lot of them signed up for our list. And since then, dozens of people have said, "I like your button," to me, even on the subway in New York. The team that put together this resolution, that a subset of you helped improve a few weeks ago, is our newest certified ethical culture leader, Joe Farkas, who's, I saw him in the back. There's Joe. And a second generation Sunday school graduate ethical, Rochelle Dolgoff-Sapia. The drafters commit to building a set of customizable templates for campaign materials for you to use in your societies, to adapt to your communities. Chicago will begin Human Rights in the News Zoom discussions on second Sunday afternoons and second Wednesday evenings. And some of us will train, I hope some in this room will train to be speakers, to speak to local television and radio stations on December 10th, International Human Rights Day. We'll work together to be good representatives and to be able to talk about the necessity of bringing human rights back into the political discussion in this country. In sum, I argue that we have a responsibility to advocate, educate, and join with others for not only a return to the prior remedies for violations, but a commitment to extend protections in both domestic and international arenas. And I'll argue that doing so will show more people who we really are, and that we'll reach more of the people who have been looking for us all along, even though they may not know it now. Please join us, first by voting for the resolution. So I guess I'll make the motion that
Yes, Ken will make the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Ooh, we got several seconds. I think I saw Patty Arduini. So we've got a motion and a second. I'm going to ask for clarifying questions, and then I'm going to ask for people to raise their hands if you wish to speak for or against. So this period of clarifying questions is if there's anything unclear or confusing that you need clarification on to inform your vote. So does anyone have any clarifying questions about this resolution for Ken? Seeing none in the room, I'm just pausing to make sure Zoom. Oh, we got Eric Sandhusen.
Sure, thank you. Ken, today we heard Marco Rubio.
We've got a microphone.
Thanks. Today we heard our Secretary of State Marco Rubio denounce the International Criminal Court and pledge that the United States would not cooperate in any way. Is the International Criminal Court specifically mentioned in this resolution, and is there any specific reference to the United States opposition to that?
we focused primarily on just all agreements that the United States has ratified and has agreed to and ratified. But we also want the United States to continue to sign on to other to the resolutions. So we understand that this is not something that the current administration is going to respond to, but we want, and each community is different in its priorities and what you want to say to your community. So we want this resolution to be something that you can use to speak for the human rights that you think are most egregiously being violated.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions before we move to pro and against discussion? Okay, please raise your hand at this time if you'd like to speak for the resolution. Our secretary will create a speakers list. I see one in the back. Can you say your name? We'll get her a microphone. Can you just say your name and we'll get you on the speakers list? What's your name?
Eleanor Kaplan.
One moment. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the for side for this resolution? Okay. Thank you.
Maybe I should have raised my hand for the clarification. Does this have any, if we are to raise a voice supporting the Declaration for Human Rights, can we consider every society spreading petitions so that it's not just the voice of, say, 500 or 1,000 people, but many thousands to be submitted to the government or our governments?
Ken, do you want to speak to that?
I believe that one of the great benefits of during the Vietnam War and during the Gulf War of those petitions is not just to send something to our political officials, but also to build mailing lists so we can contact people more. So one of the things that we want to prepare for you is blanks that are addressed to local congresspeople, the local senators, et cetera, on specific issues. So we'll provide the templates for you, and you can adapt those for your individual areas.
Thank you, Ken.
Would the AEU make an aggregate of those responses so that we have a voice? On those, on this individual issues?
I think at the Ethical Action Committee, I think that's something that the Ethical Action Committee should take up.
Yeah, that would be a matter of board business that we could handle at a board agenda. So thank you for that question. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the motion? Okay. Seeing none, I would just like to remind everybody that whenever we ask for people to speak for and against the motions, we are intending to solicit the voices of delegates specifically. So if you could be sure that if you are a delegate, you raise your hand and vote. But if you're here as a guest, we'd like to keep our speaker's agenda to delegates only. Okay, that concludes the discussion agenda for the resolution. You will see this resolution calling on all United States officials to respect human rights on the election buddy ballot, again, due by midnight tonight. We will now hear from our provisional society, the Northeast Indiana Ethical Humanists, to motion for admission to full membership into the American Ethical Union. Ken, are you providing that report as well?
We're going to split this with Amy.
We're going to split it with Amy, okay.
So just to, so hi, I now have a new hat on. I'm Ken Novak. I'm also Secretary Treasurer of the Northeast Indiana Ethical Humanists, based in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And before Amy Sloan, the founder and president of NEIEH, tells you more about the group, I certify that NEIEH has satisfied requirements for membership in the union as specified in Article 2, Section 2 of the AEU bylaws. We have met monthly and conducted public programs in harmony with the purposes of the AEU, including a speaker from Hoosiers for Separation of Church and State on growing political and religious intersections in Indiana state policy, the director of Brave Alliance, an organization that provides safe space, support, and resources for the LGBTQ plus community in Allen County, where Fort Wayne is, a speaker from a local immunization and health testing organization on counteracting vaccine myths, a speaker from the Secular Education Association concerning LifeWise Academy, which provides Bible-based religious instruction to public school students during school hours through released time programs in Indiana, Ohio, and other states, and the Democratic candidate for Indiana's 3rd District House seat spoke to us. When preparing the intro for that talk, I asked the candidate for their pronouns. She responded, she, her. You're the first person who's ever asked me that. Thank you. We've met on every 4th Saturday, save a conflict with a major demonstration, and well, today, with a couple of members I hope watching remotely. We'll be back in August for a picnic, then resume platforms in September, as well as scheduling a community building circle using Joan Johnson Lewis's Circles of Humanity in an off-cycle to the 4th Saturday meetings. We have 16 members, more than the required 10. With an ink at the end of our name, we are legally incorporated as a nonprofit in the state of Indiana. No other requirements were placed by the board, and the membership committee placed no other additional requirements. In June, the AEU board granted NEIEH provisional membership, understanding the commitments that the AEU and the same rules that the board used are also in the bylaws, the rules for full membership. Understanding the commitments that the AEU bylaws require of us, we ask you to admit us to full membership in the union. And here's Amy to tell you about the genesis and the first year of NEIEH.
Hello, everyone. And first, I want to thank you for considering our group, our little group in Northern Indiana, as members of the Ethical Union. It means a lot to us. Sorry. My name's Amy Sloan. My pronouns are she, her. And I want to talk about the story of NEIEH, how we got started. It was last year. I've been coming to this is my 3rd assembly. The first one I came to was purely social. I wanted to see what you guys were all about. I didn't know, and I wanted to explore different possibilities. The second one, last year in Philadelphia, I was really, really inspired to do something in my Fort Wayne community, Northeast Indiana community. And so when I got home from the conference, I sent questionnaires out to, I'm in about 5 or 6 groups online in Fort Wayne, and to see if anyone would be interested. Not really, expecting much, but I got quite a few responses, over 70. So I knew that this was important for our community. And I didn't even tell Ken at this point. So I told Ken about it, what I was endeavoring to do, and he said he would help us, which has been a tremendous help because, as you can see, he's the brains. I have the big ideas, but he keeps us in running very carefully. So a dear friend from the UU in Fort Wayne offered us a space in her building for a very reduced price to hold our meetings, and that was amazing. And we have members that are providing snacks and coffee, and it's really a great opportunity to build community. Our ethical action has been to raise funds and collect food donations that we stock the food pantries, outdoor food pantries, where you can just walk up, and if you need something, you take it. And we do this twice a week. Once a week we fill at least 2, and we filled as many as 4. We've collected over $2,000 in money in food, and we really feel like the communities that we're serving depend on us. And really have gotten kind of used to us being there. We're a small group, but we're growing in a cross-section of committed international people, well-intentioned people in the Fort Wayne area. I hope you will welcome us into the union, and I thank you for considering that.
Thank you, Amy. So we have a motion on the floor. I'll consider it from Ken Novak for the admission of the Northeast Indiana Ethical Humanists to full membership. Do I have a second for the motion? You got one? Okay. Are there any clarifying questions about the motion before I ask for anyone who wants to speak for and against? Eric. We'll get you the mic again.
Thanks. I'm glad to say that the Ethical Culture Society of Bergen County has approved $200 to support the NEIEH, whether you're admitted to membership or not. My clarifying question is whether or not you have received any grants or subventions from the American Ethical Union.
We haven't. What we had received is a grant from the American Humanist Association that our program of filling street level pantries was something that was started with a $225 grant that we got from the AHA. That was a seed grant that has now produced more than $2,000 of additional funding. And we, at some point later today, I didn't last night, I'll put up information on our website. We're NEIEH.org, and we'll put up a link for donations. I want to thank Jill All for suggesting that we ask for donations and for prompting me to get that done.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Eric. Are there any other clarifying questions? We got Jackie Sims. We'll pass you the microphone.
At one time, there was a requirement that ethical societies have ethical culture, ethical humanists, or something ethical in their names. Is that still a practice?
Ken, do you want to speak, or does anyone on the panel up here have an answer to that question? Okay, so it sounds like there is no official naming requirement for societies. Greg?
So Article 1 of the bylaws covers membership requirements. There is no requirement for naming of an ethical culture society. However, the use of the term ethical culture, ethical humanist is associated with membership in the AEU. So that might be what you're thinking about. But if that were a prior bylaw or requirement or practice, it is no longer a current bylaw requirement.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this motion? Seeing none, does any... Oh, we've got one online? Okay. We've got one queued up online. Anyone else wish to speak in favor before I move to against? Okay, does anyone wish to speak against this motion? Okay, seeing none. I'm sorry. Sue Walton, can you please unmute on Zoom, and you have 90 seconds to speak in favor of the motion.
Oops, there I go. I urge you all to vote for this wonderful organization, which I can literally tell Amy the check is in the mail so that I will be splitting my membership between Chicago and Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is 145 miles nearer to me than is Chicago. I applaud Ken and Amy for what they have done. Indiana really needs an ethical society. Vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, well, thank you all very much. This concludes the discussion section. You will see this motion to admit the Northeast Indiana Ethical Humanists to the AEU on the election buddy ballot. Okay, next section on our agenda is the fiscal year 27 budget package. We will now hear the report from our Finance Committee Chair, Liz Singer.
So you have all received the budget in your packet. My report, as this is a very detailed, and Greg, clarify for me, everybody has received the budget where we have the this year 26 projected, the 26 approved. Okay. So since you have received this very detailed report with very detailed explanations on every line, I would like to move the report to putting the motion on the floor, seconding it, and then a discussion, if there is any. Would you read the motion?
Are there any clarifying questions about the FY27 budget for Liz? I see one in the back. If you could introduce your name.
Hi, Leslie Aspis, NISEC member. Just curious why there was a jump on the membership committee from society development from 0 to this year 20,000.
That is, so based on our, as you've seen, our 3-year stabilizing plan, our committees and the board members have been tasked with coming up with new ideas to move us forward as the AEU. that committee has asked for a $20,000 investment in growing membership, clarifying the membership committee, clarifying how we develop new members, and they want to do this in person because they have really learned that by being in person, we're much more creative and we get a lot more work done. So this was passed by the board to give this committee the funding.
If I could just add a little context from my own perspective, we're really leaning into movement growth as a priority and for our sustainability as a movement. And as a clarifying question earlier, this is the kind of money that we would need to support new fledgling societies. This is the money we need to get our membership committee meeting to meet in person and to pay professional resources to help develop professional and mature membership growth plans. So they've asked for these resources, and we're asking that we approve it in this year's budget. Any other clarifying questions? I see one hand in the room, and I see one on Zoom. Should we go to Zoom next? I'm sorry? Yes, let's go to Zoom next. Abby Dakin.
Hi, I think my unmuting has caused an echo for people online. I'm hoping this will be okay. Liz, I appreciate the provision of the budget materials ahead of time. Unfortunately, the version that I'm looking at, I do not see the projected fiscal year 26 actuals. I see a spreadsheet that has the fiscal year 26 budget as approved and the proposed fiscal year 27, but not the actuals for 2026.
The date that went out is 7/18, is that correct? Okay, it's now in the chat. Okay.
So can I? Hello? Can I clarify? We do have an echo or something going on. Was the projected actual sent out to delegates by email? Yes, and that was on 7/18, is that accurate? No? But it was sent out by email. It's not included in the packet, but it was sent out by email, is that correct? Okay. And it's been posted in chat for those of you online. Another clarifying question, Steve Seidman.
The projected budget, and there was I think a 30% increase in the budget from the fiscal year 25 to 26. At the same time, the income of the AEU has been decreasing. Are there any areas where the AEU feels that they can cut back to kind of match the expenses with the income rather than deficit spending?
Okay. That is so based on the 3-year stabilizing outline, what we have gone into in year 1, which is the year that we're in now. Last year, we came up with a very detailed plan of how to move forward. You will notice on the bottom line that our total income was 182, but our plan was 486. Much of that plan has moved now into 27. So with a lot of deliberation and a lot of working with Greg as a developmental director to develop us to move forward, much of the money in the 486, which was the approved plan, was not spent. We gave you the actuals so you could see the areas which a lot of it for staffing was spent, but for developing of programs, leadership development, it was not spent. So the actuals are a representative only as we've moved forward into the plan, but we were not able to totally execute what we wanted to do. Now, as we move into the second year and our budget of 27, we've literally moved more of those concepts and ideas into this plan to develop us. You are correct in saying most budgets look at last year versus this year, but we're in a different cycle right now of this developmental. So if you look at this sheet, it will show you and describe last year's plan, this year's actual, next year's projectives. So where we did plan to take monies from our existing board account and our existing leadership account, we drew down as we needed only. We did not take the 275 that we approved last year. But we are now moving into the 27 budget, and we will be moving in a much more aggressive way into those plans that we want to do to develop us. Do you have any more additions?
I'll add briefly, and this is at the top of the FY26 actuals I just reshared with the delegates, that this was a backloaded expense and income year, so we knew that we were going to spend the full amount, and just want to remind us all that these are not to exceed numbers. So we're not going to spend what we don't need to spend. You'll hear about the endowment later that's asking for a dollar amount. If we could do it for less, we'll do it for less. Financial stewardship is a very big part of our job. It's a big part of y'all's job as board directors, and we take that seriously. I think, Steve, you've called it the problem of other people's money. And I would say I personally hold a keen awareness of that, and I know in talking with others like Liz and Tom, that is very present also. So just again, that it's not a linear budget, it's a back-end heavy spending budget that you'll see in the FY26 numbers that we hope to actualize better in the coming year.
Thank you. We have at least one clarifying question on Zoom. Lee Follander, can you please unmute, and 90 seconds for your question.
Yes, my question is very simple. I noticed there's nothing for ancillary or support staff. Do you have volunteers doing that? Or, how are you managing with all the big plans that you have to do it without any kind of support staff for your folks that are working?
Before you go, Liz, the 10 minutes is up for this discussion topic, so do you want me to set the 9 minutes now?
Yeah, we've got some more questions, so let's entertain.
Okay. So you'll see in the proposed 27, under line, I think it's 13, there's 70,000 budgeted plus an additional line 14, 15,000. So there is additions of 85,000 for support staff. Plus you'll also see we just hired a new dean. I believe she's with us this weekend. For 40,000.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Trang, can you clarify how much more time we have now that we just extended speaking time?
8 minutes, 19 seconds.
8 minutes for further clarifying questions. We are a little bit over on our agenda, so if you could be brief, I appreciate it. Was there another clarifying question? I think there was someone who hasn't spoken yet in the back. If you please introduce your name.
Oh. Solomon Gibson III, the Ethical Humanist Society of the Triangle. I guess kind of two, but they should be rather quick. One, I noticed nothing for ethical action projects, which was a small amount to begin with, but now there's nothing there. And what happened to the Adler Fund?
Okay. So, action, I would have to ask that chair. There's no money in the Okay, okay. All right, the Adler Fund has always been a New York Society fund. Over the years, much of the percentage of earnings on that fund went to support leadership development at the AEU. This building is 150 years old, and the discretion of the Adler Fund is given to the board of directors of the New York Society. And as the building in the past year, we've invested $4.5 or close to $6 million in this building. The Adler Fund was part of the funds that the New York Society voted to utilize to redo electricity, work on the elevator, redo a lot of our pipes, the downstairs bathrooms, and so on. And unfortunately, we have about another $6 million we need to invest in this building. So that's what happened to the Adler Fund. It went to the Adler building.
Can I invite Tom Castelnuovo, Chair of the Ethical Action Committee, to address that first question?
Hi, Tom Castelnuovo, Brooklyn Society. I'm chair of the Ethical Action Committee. You'll hear about some other roles I have a little bit later. And put this up like this. Okay. The Ethical Action Committee now is focusing on something we call the ethical agenda, which relates to our national priorities in a difficult ethical time. And if you want to find out more about that, come to the workshop we're doing on that very topic today at 3 o'clock.
Okay. Are there any other clarifying questions on Zoom? Seeing none. Were there any other clarifying questions in the room? I see one behind Eric. Yes.
This is just very brief.
Can you say your name, please?
Oh, Maura Bright, Ethical Humanist Society of the Triangle. She, her. The 2026 actualized budget as it is so far, you said, did it go out by email, did you say?
So I'm reviewing the chain of communications. I am not clear that it was in the delegate packet or that it was received. So I will be looking at that. I apologize. And it is currently shared via the delegates. So that's where we are with it.
I am a delegate, but I didn't find it. So is it? Okay, Ann just received it. Good. Thank you.
You just received it by email. I received mine on the 18th.
So I see you, Eric. One point of clarification I'd like to make is that the elections are open till midnight tonight. So if you'd like to go into your email to review those actual numbers as best as we have them, you have that opportunity before midnight tonight to vote on the motion. Sorry, did you have something else?
Yeah, you got to tilt your mic.
Oh, sorry. I will try to be better about keeping the microphone closer to my mouth. Thank you for telling me. Eric, do you have a question?
Sure. So out of the $313,000 to be spent on payroll in fiscal year 2027, I see $70,000 is allocated for program and administrative support staff. It says that it's expected that these positions will be filled in the first quarter of FY27. I presume that means starting in October of 2026. And it says unallocated funds will be available for contract engagements. And so I presume please clarify, if I'm correct in assuming that that unallocated funds may be the administrative salaries not paid while we're waiting to hire those people, or those are salaries that are not up to that $70,000? And what contract engagements do you perceive in the use of those unallocated funds?
That's a great question. Thanks, Eric. Quarter one goes through December, and we actually had initially anticipated a hire around October, but we needed to sequence out the Program and Services Associate position. That hire is looking like it's closer to December at this point. So in the meantime, we're looking at a contract engagement to provide the administrative support that's needed currently. Some of the contracts that we've engaged recently were, for instance, for communications. So we've contracted within the movement to provide communication support. That is some of the newsletters that you've seen recently. That is some website updates. That takes it off of my plate. And just to take the example, so if 70,000 is budgeted, if we hire in, let's say, 50 to 60,000, that would free up 10,000 for any of the portfolios that aren't covered by that person. That said, a lot of this will come into sequencing as we onboard staff, as we build those systems, as we make a determination about what societies are asking for and what they need from the AEU, and those are going to be privileged and prioritized. Right now, it's primarily program support, administration, and operations that come up consistently as needs from member organizations. I think that was all of your questions. Yes.
How are we doing on time, Drang? 2 minutes. If there are any further clarifying questions, we will then move to the second piece of the budget package, which is the endowment fund. But we have 2 more minutes. Question in chat.
Kimberly Burzak from Mid Rivers asked, what happens if the budget doesn't pass?
Do you want to speak to it?
My understanding is that the FY26 budget continues and or repeats. Does that match your understanding, Liz?
I've encountered much discussion, but I've never encountered a budget not passing. But normally, if something doesn't pass, the old continues, and then we'll have to figure out what to do next.
Any other clarifying questions for Liz on the FY27 proposed budget? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite Tom Castelnuovo to tell us about the proposed 21st Century Endowment Fund, which is the second part of the FY27 budget package.
Okay, hi, back again. I'm Tom Castelnuovo, Brooklyn Society, and in this capacity, I'm co-chair of the fundraising committee with Richard Coral, and I focus on long-term. Thank you. Great. Oh, look at that. All right. I think I gained a couple of inches here. So, thank you. If we want to strengthen the AEU for the long term, we need to build a new permanent endowment. A $5 million endowment could provide approximately $225,000 in annual income to support clergy development, leadership training, and society support while reducing long-term pressure on apportionments. Organizations such as the American Humanist Association, the Unitarian Universalist Association, and the Ethical Culture Schools have successfully built such endowments, and we can learn from their experience. To begin the effort, the FY27 budget includes a request for $200,000 in development funding. We propose that $100,000 come from the Ethical Futures Fund and that we seek a matching $100,000 from individuals and societies. This would provide the seed funding needed to engage experienced development professionals, acquire the tools and resources required for a major fundraising effort, and position us to launch effectively. We will proceed thoughtfully and invest these resources only if we are confident that they will produce meaningful results. However, we do not want to delay the effort or return to the Assembly mid-year seeking additional authorization. With your approval of the FY27 budget, we can begin building the financial foundation that will strengthen the AEU for generations to come. And I ask you to approve the FY27, including this investment in the AEU Endowment Initiative. And there's an additional write-up in your packet, and I'm also available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any clarifying questions for Tom on the endowment proposal? Is that Maura?
Still Maura Bright, still Ethical Humanist Culture Society, still she, her. I actually just have a question. The original $200,000, the $100,000 of which we're looking to have come from individual societies. And it says in the finance structure that if the campaign receipts exceed $400,000 within 3 years, we get our money back and then this low 4.5% return. But it says if they don't exceed the $400,000 within 3 years, we don't get repaid. So we're sort of a roll of the dice if we...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about an investment here. We're asking for a commitment from individuals and from societies to go ahead and launch this effort. I know it's difficult. In a prior role, I got $5 million in funding for development of child welfare software for a partnership of not-for-profit child welfare agencies in New York. I know how hard it is to get the $5 million, but if you don't invest, you don't get it. And the reason for the return in treating it as an investment is I've already had preliminary conversations with one society, and I think that's the kind of thing that will be required to get that society and possibly others to go ahead and make this investment. But yeah, people should understand there's some risk. Am I confident we could do it? Yeah, I think we've got a great idea in ethical culture as a congregational, non-theist movement, and given the direction of the country. Our biggest asset is our idea and the concept of ethical culture. And with the trends in this country going from 4% of atheist agnostics and nuns back in 1970 to about 30% right now, I think there's a group of folks in this country who are centimillionaires and billionaires who share a lot of our values and who might very well be willing to go ahead and invest in the AEU. Now is the time to go ahead and take advantage of that. And by the way, to kick off the fundraising effort, I'm personally committing $5,000 to serve as initial seed money. Thank you.
Yep, I see Steve would like to be recognized. Could you say your name and your society?
My name is Steve Seiden. I'm from the Long Island Society, and I've been a burr under Tom's saddle for a while, so he knows I've got a few questions. You know, I agree with your premise that more money is better than less money. But I don't, in looking at the budget for the past 3 years, I don't see any evidence of budgetary discipline. And we've been spending down what we have had for investments over the past 3 years. Why should we have any confidence that even if you do raise money, new money, that that's just not going to be spent and go down the same black hole that the previous endowment has been going down over the past 2 years? I also have questions. Is the $100,000 that you want to raise from the society, is that an additional assessment, a loan, another apportionment? Well, finally, what do you plan to do? Yeah, you haven't come up with any proposals about what you plan to do with the money in terms of how you investment, what kind of discipline you're going to have in investing the money that you want to raise.
Okay. So let's take these individually. Steve, first of all, you and I need to go ahead and talk, and my apologies for the delays. I've been busy having discussions about apportionment, among other topics. As for responsible spending within the next year, I'm running for treasurer, and I personally pledge to you that there will be appropriate financial controls and that we will look at every opportunity to save money within the budget and manage things effectively. As for, what's your second question?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, okay.
It was about the 100,000 from societies.
Oh
and
yeah,
individuals.
the 100,000. It's not going to be an apportionment. Okay, we're talking about an investment in the AEU's future, and I and hopefully if other folks join our long-term investment part of the fundraising committee, you know, if there are others who share this vision, if there are others with development experience, I want to make a request for folks to let me know about that. We're going to go and say, hey, you know, we think we have a good case. This is the time to go ahead and make an investment. Years ago, the New York Society created the Adler Fund, okay, which had about $1.3 million in assets and produced $40,000 to $60,000 per year. Okay, the AEU has done this before. We need to do it again. Okay, and this is the time to go ahead and do it. And I hope that the Long Island Society, along with others, will go ahead and participate in that. And, you know, folks will be hearing from me.
And I just want to add and build on, Tom, what you said, just as a point of clarification. I know, Steve, that you're new to this and that we've talked about this a couple of times, but this is the first year we spent down our investments. So it hasn't been the past 2 or 3 years. This is the first year. The second piece is that it hasn't gone into a black hole. It's gone directly towards supporting our societies through rebuilding programs and services, and specifically through recovering from the existential institutional disruptions of the past 5 years. So you're absolutely right. It's a lot of money, and it's because for the past 5 years, things have disappeared. We've experienced attrition. It's an investment. It's upfront, and it's a risk. So yes, I would say that the budgetary discipline is something that we are considering, and thank you for your questions, for your continued questions. I hope you will join Tom in planning some of this. So thank you.
Yep, great. Other?
Train, can I get a time check?
2 minutes.
2 minutes for further clarifying questions. I know there's a lot. I'd like to hear from some voices that we haven't heard from. Let's go to, I see Philip Lindsay over here.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this focus on development. Right now, it's like locally in Philadelphia, it's what we're trying to do. Our long-term planning committee is totally defunct. Yet the type of people we are attracting also tend to be interested in these questions, also tend to have some background experience. And our space is increasingly being used as a space to do fundraising and development trainings with other nonprofits in Philadelphia. So I'm curious, is there a way the local societies, more than just investing money in this, is there a way this can be part of training people that we're bringing along? And if so, what's the next kind of moment for me and for Philly to be involved in that way?
Okay, that's a great offer, a great suggestion. We'll be reaching out to Philly. And as for additional detailed plans to pursue this, I personally am trying to get through this week, and then after that, I'd like to go ahead and pursue what you're talking about in detail.
I'll just add too, Phil, that Tom is very outward-facing as far as fundraising goes. We also have Richard Corral, who's a co-chair for fundraising, and one of the pieces he has asked for funding for in this budget is to host a fundraising training, grant writing training. And also just say we've been approached by several volunteers, Ahood, which I don't quite see in the room. Oh, there you are, great. So just want to say that that's in the roadmap.
Right. I also just want to acknowledge leadership, say, by Bergen in terms of grant development, grant seeking. So there are a lot of very creative people, creative societies out there. We want to take advantage of that.
I saw Stan Mulvihill, and then Joe, did you still have a question? Or? Okay, let's do Stan in the back.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
If you could say your name and society.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Stan Mulvihill with the St. Louis Ethical Society here. Tom, how important, I saw you want to engage fundraising council. How big of a part of do you have experience with that, first of all? And what do you expect in terms of response to RFP of some kind? And/or do you have any staff support for this to identify major gift prospects or other common development tasks?
Yeah. One major initial asset that we have. Oh, sorry.
Time. It's been 10 minutes.
Thank you, Trang. Can you do a 60-second response, please?
Sure. Sure. One major initial asset we have here is a whole bunch of contacts with people who've successfully built endowments. Okay, so we know folks who are with the AHA. We know Roy Speckhart. We know folks involved in the ethical culture school movement. And rather than reinventing the wheel, we want to go ahead and replicate successful fundraising efforts that allied organizations have engaged in. And then, in terms of fundraising background, I raised $5 million a few years ago to go ahead and benefit a consortium of nonprofits, kind of a very similar kind of effort. This isn't easy, and we look forward to the support of St. Louis and the expertise that you guys have been able to provide. Maybe Crystal White wants to participate in this process.
Thank you, Tom. And we are out of time for discussion, so thank you for all those great questions. So at this time, we have a motion on the table from Treasurer Liz Singer for the Assembly to adopt the fiscal 27 budget package, which includes the proposed FY27 budget and the endowment proposal. Is there a second for this motion? I saw Pat. You got it? Okay. Okay. So please raise your hand if you would like to speak in favor of this motion, and the secretary will create a list. We see Joe Farkas. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of the motion? Okay. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Eric Sandhusen. Steve Seiden. Oh, okay. I guess I forgot to explain this before. So it's meant to be balanced so that there are an equal number on both sides. So is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the motion? We've got, I see one out. Randy Best. Okay, I'm recording Best and Parker in for, and so then we've got Steve Seiden on the against. Is there anyone else? So we have 3 on favor now. So there's room for one more to speak against if anyone would like to. Okay, seeing none. Rhiannon, can you work? Okay, we will start the discussion. Joe Farkas, you have 90 seconds. If we could get him a microphone, please.
Sure. I just want to point out great work that the budget committee and our treasurer has been doing with the budget so far, and that for anybody who doesn't know the figure off the top of their head, we're at 35% inflation since just 2016. It's ridiculous to assume that we would not need to be spending 35% more just to provide the services we were already providing in 2016 now, much less grow, much less change, much less develop. We are getting less, if you are feeling like we are spending more and more money for less and less output, you and every other American, buddy, we're all feeling it, and developing new and aggressive strategies to safeguard the future of the organization by heading off that it's 35% now that may well worsen in the future. So pursuing an aggressive posture that positions us for financial independence is just smart, and it relies on an awareness of simple, practical mathematics of the fiscal situation. So, thank you.
Okay, so then we go to Eric. Oh, we've got it. Oh, okay. Sure. 90 seconds.
Sure. Many of you who I've worked with on the board of directors for the past 3 years know where I stand. I think it's unconscionable for us to be spending over $300,000 of monies that we don't have to staff up over the next 3 years. I think that we can call it the stabilizing plan, but it's deeply destabilizing. And unfortunately will leave the AEU not only without any assets, but it will leave us with liabilities, especially in terms of people who are going to have to be laid off. We simply do not have the money. I want to, recognize the work that's been done by the Finance Committee in developing this budget. Unfortunately, to me, it's just completely detached from reality, including the reality that the 4 largest societies have currently suspended paying their apportionments. And I don't really see that coming back based on some resolution that's made that all of a sudden it's not going to be voluntary, it's going to be mandatory. So I have to speak against this, even though I recognize that, as you said, it will leave us in a position where we have to make some very difficult choices. I say the time to make those choices is now, while we still have some endowment that can be used for the basic administrative functions that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Randy Best. We can get Randy a microphone. 90 seconds.
Carpe diem, seize the moment. Over the last few years, many of the societies have complained that they're not getting anything from the AEU, and one of the responses to that is we created a roadmap to get from where we were to where we want to be. We are now starting to flesh out that roadmap with the AEU hiring staff, implementing those plans that have been developed by the roadmap. And I think to put the brakes on that now would be a big mistake. I think we're also coupling it with a creative proposal to raise an endowment that will lessen the burden, financial burden on societies to support the organization. So I think we have a plan here that is integrated to provide the services and provide the structures and to provide stable financing in the future. And it's time to make that investment and take that chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Steve? Steve Seiden.
So I think it's pointing to the 35% inflation in the endowment that speaks to the lack of fiduciary and fiscal discipline that we need. I mean, if we had inflation like that, the chairman of the federal board would be fired, and they'd be trying to get Paul Volcker back in here. And I think that before we start raising, to me, I've used this metaphor before, but to me, the AEU at this point has basically maxed out one credit card. They're carrying a big balance, and instead of tightening your belt and paying down the balance on the other credit card, you're suggesting that we go out and apply for another credit card. And that's what I think this new endowment fund is. I think if our books were balanced and we wanted to plot a course for the future, that would be a good time to start raising money. But at a time when we're deficit spending, I think we have to get the financial house in order. And I appreciate all the efforts that everybody has done. I think they've done a great job of trying to keep things going. But I think we do need more fiscal discipline before we start asking for even more money from the societies who've already decided not to pay because they're not getting anything in return from the AEU. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, but because we don't have anyone on the against side, we don't have room on the list. We have to have an even on both. So unless there's anyone else that wishes to speak against, no, we have Carolyn Parker on the list as 4, but if there's no one else against, we're going to end the discussion. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak against the motion? I see Joseph Farkas. Okay, let's keep this brief. Well, no, Carolyn is next on the list.
In 90 seconds, my name is Carolyn Parker. I represent the Ethical Society of Austin on the AEU board. I serve on the Finance Committee. I don't like this budget. I don't like some of the things that are in it, but it's time to move forward. No more pauses, no more stalls. This is a plan for progress. If they don't move, we don't spend the money. If we don't spend the money, well, you get to keep it. But that means we haven't done anything. It's time to get rolling.
Joe Farkas.
You offered me a devil's advocate opinion, so I'm going to give it, which is that this is a creative approach to addressing a problem of not collecting apportionments from our 5 largest societies. And a fiscal alternative to creating a fund to provide that funding in lieu of those apportionments is to hold those societies accountable for not paying their apportionments, which we have been in a constant state of negotiation about, constant arguments and sideways disruptive comments and behavior, and all been tiptoeing around it. And now we're tiptoeing around it by completely evading the question of paying for, of funding the national organization by collecting apportionments at all, by creating an entire fund to do that. An alternative to the fundraiser is holding those societies accountable for not paying what's owed.
I don't think so. We are beyond clarifying questions. We've had 3 for and 3 against. I'm seeing a hand, another that wants to speak against. That was against. As entertaining as that would be, we are, I think, 15 minutes behind at this point, and I would really like to move on. So thank you for that robust discussion on both sides. That concludes the discussion. This will be part of the election buddy packet that is in your emails, and please cast your votes by 11:59. And now we are much overdue for a 10-minute break. So I see it's 10:56, so please return by 11:05. Okay, please wrap up those discussions. Find your seats. We're going to get started in just a minute. All right, I know there's a lot to talk about. Let's find those seats so we can try to reclaim some time on our agenda. All right, let's find those seats. I'm going to have to start moving through the agenda in just 60 seconds here. We don't want to lose any more time for lunch. Thank you, Trey. That's right. We're all here together as long as it takes. Thank you, Trang. All right. Find your seats, please. We are moving into the next item, which is a motion for officers nominations, fiscal 27 vice president and treasurer officer nominations. Before we open elections, I'd like to take one more final moment to express gratitude to our outgoing officers. We recognized Liz and Stan earlier this morning, and I want to name it once more here because what we're about to do is hand their work off to new people, and it's only possible because of the work that they did to leave it in good order. Whoever we elect today inherits a union in better shape because of the work that they did. So, Stan, Liz, thank you very much. We will now hear from the Board Development Committee on officer nominations. Trang, would you please state the motion for officer nominations?
Thank you. Make sure I have a timer for myself. Hi, everyone. Trang Duong. I'm she, her, and the chair of the Board Development Committee of the AEU. We are responsible for creating the slate. The bios are already in the delegate packet, and they will be linked on the election buddy ballot you'll receive later today. So really quickly, we are nominating, again, another thank you to our outgoing officers, Liz Singer and Stan Horwitz. We have two new candidates. It is an uncontested election. We have Condra Sears from the Baltimore Society, You'll probably know her if you've been around for a few years. She did formally serve as president of the AEU at a great time of change from when we went from an 11-member board to a 20-plus representative board. So she had a calm presence that allowed us to move forward to a new way of governing. And so the BDC thought that with that experience, her clear-eyed view of the AEU and really how we can continue moving forward in partnership or with our developmental director, other board officers, and the entire AEU board. And we nominated Condra for the office of vice president. For treasurer, you've heard Tom Castelnuovo speak. He's from the Brooklyn Society. He recently joined the board last month from Brooklyn as their representative, but he has a lot of experience. He's actually served as a treasurer of the AEU previously, as you all may know, and also has a lot of experience coming in, not only as treasurer for the Brooklyn Society, but also currently the chair of the Ethical Action Committee with the AEU, co-chair of the Fundraising Committee. He's talked to you about the endowment, obviously, proposal, and also a member of the AEU Apportionment Task Force and Finance Committee. So he also stands to have great experience and very qualified for this position of treasurer. So I would like to ask for a motion from the floor to accept these candidates for the positions, Condra Sears for VP and Tom Castronevo for treasurer.
See a motion from Rich Wash. Is there a second for the motion? See Thomas Raphael. Okay. Before we move into discussion, I just want to, for everybody's awareness, we're running about a half an hour behind. And in order to not delay lunch or any of our future workshops, I just want to encourage you, you don't have to speak if you don't have to speak, and you don't have to take a full 90 seconds if you don't have 90 seconds. We've got all of the rest of our agenda, including some other bylaw changes coming up, and we need to do it in about 50 minutes if we can. So at that time, are there any clarifying questions on the motion to approve the officers? Okay. Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Okay. Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Okay, there are no delegates that would like to speak on either side, so discussion is concluded. You will see officer nominations on your election buddy ballot. We will now hear a motion from our governance committee to reduce the complexity in our bylaws for committee. Oh, is that me? I am first up to report and motion for the bylaws regarding committees. Okay, so the initial committee motion that is in your packets, the spirit behind it is it's taking the detail of what our committees are from our bylaws and it's moving that into the policy manual. So what our bylaws are going to define is the function that the assembly charges the board to do, what functions it should do, and then it leaves it up to the policies of the board to determine how to perform those functions. And so, for example, it's not obligating us to have a fundraising committee per bylaws if we don't have people to staff that kind of a thing. It's moving that into the policy, so it's up to the judgment of the board whether and how to staff certain committees to perform the functions that they've been assigned by the bylaws. That's the primary gist of this initial piece. Again, the detail is in the delegate packet. So in interest of time, I'd like to entertain any clarifying questions about this first bylaws motion. Seeing none in the room, are there any online? Okay. With no clarifying questions, does anyone wish to speak for the motion on committees? Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak for the motion. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Okay, seeing no delegates for or against, we will conclude the discussion. You will see this on your election buddy ballot. We will now hear a motion from the Governance Committee to clarify a role of chaplains and the certification of chaplains in our bylaws. Greg Bonin, are you able to report on this motion?
So this is Article 7, Section 3. The prior bylaw, the current bylaws are limited in scope, and the amendment language is more aligned with the Association of Professional Chaplains, or APC, the Accreditation Council for Pharmacy Education, ACPE, the Humanist Society, and similar institutions and accrediting bodies who describe chaplaincy. This amendment specifically recognizes recent developments within chaplaincy and conveys the dignity of both individuals and the profession of chaplaincy. For expediency, you have the amendment in front of you. I will not read it out loud. Do you need me to state my motion or just hand off the mic?
Thank you, Greg. Is there any clarifying questions on the motion to update our bylaws regarding chaplaincy? I'm seeing none in the room and none online. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the motion on chaplaincy? Okay, seeing none. Does anyone wish to speak against? All right, we will conclude the discussion section. You will see this on your election buddy ballot. We will now hear a motion from the Governance Committee to clarify the effect of a vacant board member seat and the requirement for quorum in our bylaws. Secretary Rhiannon Johnson, please report.
Thank you, Scott. So the intent behind this update is to clarify how we calculate quorum on the board. Because currently, as representative directors that get sent to the AEU board, it's up to each individual society on how they wish to do so. Some societies might not want to send a representative, and that's okay, that's their choice. However, that does then affect our quorum counts and being able to keep quorum. With such a large board, our quorum right now is at 2/3 of the members, and it doesn't account for any suspension of director seats. So this change will allow for a director to be suspended, and that language of be suspended and stay vacant. And if a member organization subsequently wishes to send a representative director, then their seat will reactivate. They just need to give us notice. So it just allows for a mechanism for having directors not be counted against quorum if their society chooses not to send one. And additionally, the other change is to change from 2/3 of the members of the board should be a quorum. It's going to change to a simple majority of the standing members. So then that, again, eases some of the quorum requirements. We've had some issues in the past maintaining quorum at such a high level with such a diverse group of directors with schedules. Is really difficult to keep that. And some meetings we lose quorum and then we can't continue. So this should help ease logistics at the board level.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Are there any clarifying questions on the motion on the table? Okay, seeing none in the room or online, does anyone wish to speak in favor of this motion? Does anyone wish to speak against this motion? Okay, seeing none in the room or online, we will conclude discussion. And again, you will look forward to seeing this on your election buddy ballot. We will now hear a motion from the Governance Committee to align officer terms with their election by the Assembly in our bylaws. So again, Rhiannon.
Thank you. All right, so this is just really codifying current practice. The commencement of officers start immediately after their election at Assembly. And that was never really recorded anywhere in any of our documentation, and that's what we do. So there's always a question of like, do they start at the fiscal year? Do they start at assembly? So it's just adding that clarification of when the officers technically start. And so they start immediately after the election results are certified by the assembly, and it extends until the next assembly election.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Are there any clarifying questions? Seeing none, would anyone like to speak in favor of the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Okay, we will conclude discussion, and you will see this item on your ballot. Okay, we will now hear a motion from the Governance Committee to clarify the non-voting status of affiliate organizations. So again, Rhiannon, would you please state this motion?
Okay, so again, this is just codifying and equivocating our current practice. So right now, the Board of Directors has a non-voting director representative from FES, Future of Ethical Societies, but it does not have that space for the National Ethical Service. So it's, you know, making all of our affiliates treated the same, that they all get one non-voting director role at the board, and also just clarifying that that is what we do, because again, it wasn't really written down anywhere, that they have that ability. So it's just adding that to the bylaws.
Any clarifying questions? Would anyone like to? Oh, actually, yep. Thank you. An amendment has been submitted for this item from Philadelphia Ethical Society to give voting rights to affiliate organizations. Stan, would you please present your amendment and make that motion?
Real succinctly, I believe that if affiliated organizations representatives are to attend board meetings, they should have a vote. It's ethical. So I'm asking you to vote for that. And if you do that, it kind of makes the previous governance committee's motion kind of irrelevant. So that's the story, real quick. So there you go.
Okay, so we're going to initially discuss the amendment. So does anyone have a clarifying question of Stan on the amendment? Does anyone wish to? Oh, Eric, if we could. I see one online as well.
I just have a question as to what are the current affiliated organizations, and how does anything become an affiliated organization?
People speak to that?
The current affiliated organizations are the National Ethical Service, NES, which you heard from earlier, and then the Future for Ethical Societies, often called FES. Currently, FES has one representative, Julia Julstrom-Agoyo, and this would add a second, the National Ethical Service. The requirements for becoming an an affiliate organization are outlined in Amendment 1 of the bylaws under membership, and it's a little bit toward the end. They have different rights, different responsibilities.
And there was a question online. Abby Dakin, could you please unmute? There you go.
So if as I understood the governance committee's motion, it would add a non-voting seat. So would the amendment then apply to that seat also?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so the governance committee, the governance committee is proposing to, yes, add that non-voting seat. Philadelphia's amendment would turn both of the affiliate seats to voting seats at that point.
Right, so it's I guess you could say part 2.
Thank you. Any further clarifying questions? I see Jackie Sims. Can we get Jackie a microphone?
Thank you. Would the possibility of suspending that representative on the board be extended to the FES and the NES members as well?
Yes, certainly.
Yes.
Okay, so that would, so if they chose not to have a representative on the board, that absence would not be counted as against a quorum?
Well, assuming
The
other
other
bylaw.
passes.
Yes. Any further clarifying questions on the motion? I see one. Can you state your name and your society?
Chris Van Dyke, Northern Virginia Ethical Society. I just want to be clear, if I want Part B, do I vote yes on Part A to get them on the board first, and then yes on Part B to get them a vote?
So this is going to show up as a ranked choice vote on Election Buddy. And so the way that that's going to work is you'll rank anything that you find acceptable. So if you only want the Philadelphia amendment that yes, they get the vote, then you'll only rank that one as number 1 and you won't rank anything else. If you're okay with that and mine, you're like, oh, you know, as long as they're there, if they have a vote, they don't have a vote, then you would rank 1 and then 2 in order of your preference. If you don't like either of them and you want to say no, then there's an option of no change to the bylaws and you would rank that one. And so, because with this, you can't have both of them pass because they're the same line item in the bylaw, so it will be a ranked choice vote.
There is also, let me add to that, an abstain option. So if you don't want any change, you can choose no change or abstain. Either one will be the same. It wouldn't change anything.
All right, thank you all. Any last concluding questions before we move into discussion? I see in the back, can you please state your name and society?
I'm Daniel Hoffman from the Philadelphia Ethical Society, and the clarification that I'd like is if these affiliate organizations' representatives are present, they get to vote. If they are not present, do they still count as part of the quorum count? In other words, if they show up, they count toward quorum, or if they don't show up, they count against us making it. That's, you know, like if they show up, they get to vote. If they don't, we don't count them for quorum. Is that what we're talking about?
Kind of, sort of. It depends on whether or not the governance committee's bylaws change proposal for quorum passes or not, and if they choose to send a representative to the board. So if they choose to send a representative to the board and the bylaws change hadn't been proposed, then yes, it would affect quorum.
Carolyn Parker? And this will need to conclude our clarifying question section.
It is a clarifying question. As it happens, some members of the Executive Committee of the National Ethical Service are also representatives of their home societies, including myself, Kay Dundorf, and others. Do we get, if one of us is selected to be the representative of the National Ethical Service, would we have 2 votes? Just asking.
Oh, really good question.
I'm hearing that we might need to clarify that with the parliamentarian, but potentially yes. Okay. Thank you for those clarifying questions. We are going to move into discussion of the Philadelphia Amendment. So please raise your hand if you would like to speak in favor. Oh, I see that the parliamentarian has raised their hand. Can you please unmute? Steve, can you please unmute and yeah, give your answer?
Can you hear me now? Okay, the easier question first. One person, one vote. You can hold as many jobs as you want, but when you sit on the board, you only get one vote. Now, if I may, a clarifying question. Rhiannon stated that because of the ranked choice process, you cannot put both the original main motion and the Philadelphia amendment as ranked first, meaning you cannot vote for both of them. Is that the interpretation?
You can vote for both of them, but you have to put a preference. So you have to say number 1, number 2.
Okay, I've mentioned this before. When it comes to bylaws, you have two separate questions. Do you have an additional, do you put representatives on the board? And do they vote or not? You can vote for both of them because both of them could be the preference of the majority. I'm not sure if the ranked choice calculations will give you an accurate reflection because you have two different questions on the same bylaws amendment. Yes, no to representatives and yes, no to voting. Either or both could be true.
So you're recommending that we don't rank them and have two separate questions on the ballot?
These should be two separate questions.
Okay, yeah, we'll make that adjustment. Thank you.
Thank you.
So have ballots already been distributed? No. So we'll make that correction before the ballots go out. And the answer to the initial question is one person, one vote. So no, if they have both titles. Send someone else. Okay, thank you all. That will have to conclude our clarifying questions. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the Philadelphia amendment? I see Ken from Chicago. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment from Philadelphia? Just confirming that there's none online. Okay. Do we entertain the one even though there's not a, okay, so, no, give Ken a microphone, just say your piece.
Hi, I'm second. These are essentially stakeholder seats, as the NLC has stakeholder seats. It's something that the European corporations have a lot of them have instituted. And it's not, I think, not about sharing power, but about sharing perspective. Particularly in the case of FES, it will bring additional perspective from a generation not now represented on our board, and a generation that will face a future that most of us on the board will not face. So I believe that the widening of perspective, the bringing these people to full voting members will benefit our future.
Thank you, Ken. That will conclude the discussion on the Philadelphia amendment. Now we discuss the original amendment proposed by the Governance Committee to give all affiliate organizations a non-voting seat on the board. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak in favor of the Governance Committee motion on non-voting affiliates. See one, seeing Rhiannon. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into discussion.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a point of clarification that the Governance Committee is not against the Philly amendment. That, in my perspective, was always the intention to get there, but to first put it in the bylaws that they actually are there, and then we can deal with the vote. So I'm happy that Stan put forward this amendment to like go straight for the goal, and so yeah, I'm not. I'm for either. So the Governor's Committee is not against the Philly amendment. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the discussion question. So we will be changing the ballot so that you will see this as two separate questions with the getting all affiliate organizations a seat and then giving them voting power will be two separate items. So look forward to that on your election buddy ballot. Okay, our next bylaw item is on voluntary apportionments. We will entertain a motion from the Washington Ethical Society to amend the bylaws to make society apportionments voluntary. We recognize Terry Smith to provide a report and state your motion.
Is this the right height? Good. Well, I want to begin by thanking everyone, especially Tom Castle Nuovo, for the civil and cordial discussion we've had about the West proposal. Tom and I have become so familiar with one another's point of view that we can complete one another's sentences. In fact, we have a code now. I just say, argument number 3. And he responds, rejoinder number 6. It saves a lot of time. So what more can I say this morning? I do not expect my brief remarks to be persuasive if my more extensive previous ones were not. But I do feel an obligation to give voice to the perspective and experience of the society I represent for the good of the ethical movement itself. My purpose today then is not so much persuasion as explanation. I want to share the West experience of the AEU and what kind of changes we seek and hope to see. The goal of our proposal is to bring the AEU's financial process into alignment with the ethical movement's values. Our perception is that our current financial process is out of alignment with our values. That process did not set out to be out of alignment, quite the opposite. It has the laudable goal of being fair. In the name of fairness, it mandates that each society give according to its means. The current formula determines what that amounts to for each society. But to ensure fairness, our system unintentionally creates an adversarial relationship with its societies. This is especially true of the larger societies that have more complex finances that involve income-producing assets, multiple salaries for leaders and staff, and delivery of programs that can exist only if the members make significant contributions, typically averaging several $1,000s per year. Such a society is trying to engage its members, pay its leaders and staff, manage its assets, and deliver its programs. As it juggles these challenges, it is also required to share information about its membership and finances with the AEU. Then it receives a bill for what is intended to be its fair share. The system is based on good intentions, but it has the features of an income tax, and it thrusts the AEU into the role of auditor and tax collector. In general, the larger the society, the greater the tension in its relationship with the AEU. We must have all noticed this. Smaller societies may not perceive how unpleasant the conflict between serving one's members and receiving a bill for one's apportionment can become, and may not understand or appreciate the pain that was felt by the Chicago Humanist Society, not to be confused with the Chicago Ethical Humanist Circle, when it left the movement, in large part due to this kind of unpleasantness. One thing I have learned by studying the early essays of Felix Adler is that ethics requires us to balance multiple values. He warned, for example, against raising up social ethics to the point that we ignore the personal ethics of family and friends. Our current financial system has, I believe, caused a different kind of imbalance. It has elevated the importance of fairness to the point that it has unintentionally damaged its relationship with its own societies. Our proposal is based on our perception that the AU's financial process is harming the movement. It might seem, however, that the problem could be addressed by simply revising the formula. No doubt it could be improved, and I'm part of the task force that is looking at that question. But the main problem is not the formula. The problem is that we treat the formula as a tax. This is out of alignment with our other values. It is not a balanced way to finance a movement of volunteers. Is the West proposal, therefore, to throw out all considerations of fairness and allow each society in isolation to decide what to give? No. It's an attempt to achieve balance. There would still be a formula, but it would serve as a guideline, as a way for the AEU to make a request. Instead of that request coming from the Assembly, it would come from the AEU Board, which is responsible for coordinating plans with finances. And the AEU Board would have the authority to withhold services from societies that pay nothing or close to nothing. I don't think that would happen if apportionments were voluntary, but the authority for the board to take action would be there. We do not have to guess what the result would be because there's an extensive literature that addresses this question. Relationships between societies and the AEU would improve. There would be more trust, more engagement, and more generosity. It is true that there would be less predictability in the finances of the AEU, but on average, its income would be roughly the same. The relational benefits would be felt to a greater extent by the larger societies, but this is because the damage of the current system is felt to a greater degree by the larger societies. The voluntary model would not solve all our challenges, but it would make it possible for us to turn our full attention to them, and this would be a significant improvement. But one thing I hear from members is that this might be a good idea, but we're not ready for it. Well, when will we be ready? The West proposal is not new. It traces back to Bob Wentworth, who was the West representative on the Apportionment Task Force of 2006. 20 years ago, Bob sent a proposal to the AEU board that called for a voluntary model. He said it would improve relationships and align more closely with the values of the movement. Shall we wait another 20 years? Another thing I hear is that the proposal is too risky under current conditions. We need to avoid risk. Is that what the AEU is doing? Is it avoiding financial risk? Isn't it actually rolling the dice on a gamble that it can build up programs and services by spending down reserves while raising a large endowment just in time to cover the increased costs before the reserves run out? It's an exciting idea. High-risk gambles always are. Maybe it will succeed, but I don't see how the West Amendment calls for anything close to the risk the current financial plan takes. So the actual financial argument against the West Amendment is that the AEU is already taking a huge risk and therefore cannot afford the small additional risk of the voluntary model. One final point. Let us distinguish between the AEU and the ethical movement. The purpose of the AEU is to advance the ethical movement. If the AEU were to cease to exist, the ethical movement would still exist because the individual societies would still exist. Any proposal should therefore be judged by the benefit it confers on the individual societies. And it is upon these grounds, and on behalf of the 85% of West members who voted to send this proposal to the AEU, that I ask for your support. And thank you for your attention. And for clarification, Tom, this was argument number 4, and you can now state rejoinder number 7.
Okay, thank you, Terry, for that presentation. Trent, can I get a time check?
That was 10 minutes.
That was 10 minutes. I feel very confident that there are probably some clarifying questions. Can we get 5 minutes to entertain any potential clarifying questions with the understanding that if you have one, please try to keep it as brief as possible? And yes, we will do clarifying questions, and then we will enter the same period of for and against. But the initial period is if there's something you do not understand about the proposal, that would inform your vote. Oh, wait, do we need a second? We don't need a second, okay. Are there any clarifying questions for Terry? I see Rich.
While he's getting the mic, yeah, Terry, can you come up so that we save time? Thank you.
Yes, Terry. When we have a formula for apportionment, there's some clarification or prediction as to what the arithmetic is. Is there any standard, in your view of this, of how a society can determine whether it's prepared to make a contribution or not? Is it entirely internal? Is it just based on a plebiscite? How are we to send the societies off with a standard?
Well, the purpose of the formula, if the amendment were approved, would be for the AEU's board to make a request of the society for a pledge. So it really parallels what, at least at West, we do with our members, which is we don't ask to see their tax forms and then send them a bill for what it costs to be a member of West, but we send them a suggestion about what we'd like to receive from them, and then they make a pledge and we thank them. How does a society decide? I think that would be up to each different society. They would have a guideline about what the AEU hopes they will decide to give.
I see Joe Farkas.
I suppose either a proposition or a clarifying question. Would it be, as a voluntary decision made by each society, whether or not to pay apportionment by organization members who have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization to spend their money prudently, how can My assumption then is that it would be up to the AEU to provide some kind of evidence that it was in the fiduciary interest of its member organizations to pay an apportionment or to adjust their proposed apportionment, voluntary apportionment, such that the apportionment represented a fiduciary, a quality fiduciary choice rather than an negation of a quality choice. I don't suppose if I've communicated that correctly. It would be up to the AEU to show that an apportionment represented a prudent financial decision as opposed to, I suppose, the obvious choice that why would anybody with any fiduciary responsibility pay money that they didn't have to pay?
Well, I think that's why voluntary relationships tend to improve communication and relationships, because just as our society tries to explain to our members why it's worth continuing to be a member and pledging to the organization, and we're constantly, in relationship with our members, trying to account for what we're doing and get their opinion about whether it's serving their idea of what they're coming to us for. The AEU would be responsible for doing that under this proposal. So it does place additional responsibilities on the shoulders of the AEU, and that is often viewed as, in the literature, one of the disadvantages of the voluntary model. It's a lot easier to send a bill than to explain to a society why we would like you to give a certain amount.
Thank you, Terry. We do have one clarifying question online.
All right, Kimberly Burzak from Mid-Rivers asked, how can the AEU do future budget planning without a sense of potential income?
The same way that West does. We have a full-time leader, we have a part-time business manager, we have a building manager, and we hire a contractor to take care of the grounds and building. And yet we don't send a bill to our members. We rely upon pledges. We ask members to treat their pledges as promises, and when people do pledge, for the most part, they're able to keep those pledges.
Time, Terry.
Yeah.
5 minutes is up.
I did see a hand from Louise, and then we are going to need to move into the pros and against in the interest of time.
Has a society ever been forced to pay their apportionment?
That's one of the paradoxes that we're dealing with. We're a voluntary organization. What is force? What is the force involved? It raises extraordinarily difficult questions that disrupt our relationships.
Okay, thank you. We will need to move into the discussion section. So again, this will be, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak in favor of the motion. Eric from Bergen. Abby online, thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I know Tom has, and I know I saw Rich as well. In order to keep it balanced, does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the motion? I see Steve in favor. And so please raise your hand if you would. Was there, Carolyn, was that in favor? Okay, so we'll add Carolyn to the on favor side, so we have 2 more slots against in the back from Philip. What's your name? Thank you. Which leaves, I see one more hand in the back to speak on the against. Solomon Yes. Oh. Wash. I'm sorry. Do we have any room? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor? Oh, wait. Are you in favor or against? Against. So does anyone else want to speak in favor?
So far, we have in favor Eric, Abby, Stephen, Carolyn, and against Tom, Rich Wash, Dan, Solomon. Yep. So we can, yeah, but we can have him as an alternate in case somebody else chooses to speak in favor by the end.
Lee, there was a Lee that had a hand up. Lee, can you specify in chat if that's for or against? Okay, so we'll add Lee to the for, and then we'll add Rich for against. And that's going to be all we have time for. So let's dig into the discussion. I think the first on the list is Eric Sandhusen Bergen. And this is 90 seconds.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Apportionment Redesign Task Force, which I've been part of for the last 5 months. We were converging very much on a proposal like this, and Wes really helped prompt us to clarify this. The $144 per member per year that the Bergen Society currently pays means that we lose money on every member, many of our new members that we get. It's really not sustainable for growth. But this amendment, I will say, as Bergen Society has suspended its apportionment for the last 3 years, will enable me as our board representative to go back and engage with our board at the Bergen Society and our individual members, and to help them engage in that same type of discussion that Terry spoke of, and that I would like to see us begin to make a financial contribution. This will enable me to go back to Bergen Society and do so. Earlier Joe Farkas talked about, the need to hold societies accountable. So I want you to understand, voting against this measure will mean, first of all, that the Bergen Society will probably no longer be a member of the AEU, like Chicago Ethical Humanist Society, not the Circle, but the Society did those years ago. It will probably also mean that at some point the AEU will have to take specific action against Washington Ethical Society, St. Louis Ethical Society, New York's Ethical Society, and kick them out as well. Thank you.
Okay, let's entertain speech from the floor as much as possible, please. I think Tom is next. He's going up.
Wow, I volunteered.
90 seconds, Tom.
Oh, okay, all right. So I appreciate Terry and Wes for raising this important discussion. We all run an AEU built on trust, engagement, and fairness. Where we differ is not on the goal, but whether this bylaw amendment is the right way to achieve it. This proposal asks us to fundamentally change how AEU funds its national operations before we've answered some very basic questions. What happens to existing unpaid apportionments, which total $70,000 for the non-paying societies? How will the board build responsible annual budgets if operating revenue becomes substantially less predictable? Why would potential donors to a $5 million endowment believe we are credible if we cannot reliably collect from societies to pay for our basic operations? We deserve answers to these core questions before we amend the bylaws. We also have our own experience to learn from. As apportionments have become voluntary in practice, revenue has fallen dramatically from $190,000 per year to $70,000 in the latest budget. Before making that model permanent, we should understand why we would expect different results. It has been suggested by Terry that synagogues rely on voluntary giving. Individual congregations often do, but the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism, their national membership organization, uses mandatory dues from affiliated congregations. Many federated organizations
Time.
distinguish between voluntary giving by individuals and financial obligations of member institutions.
Can you wrap it up, Tom?
I respectfully urge you to vote no on this amendment at this time, not because the conversation isn't important, because the work of the apportionment subcommittee is not finished.
Thank you, Tom. Abby Dakin online, can you please unmute? And you have 90 seconds. Abby, you are not unmuted yet. It looks like you're still muted to me. Oh, she can't unmute, so let's move to the next.
Okay, that's better. Okay, so rather than repeat Terry's arguments, which were so beautifully presented, I'll just address Tom's point about our own experiment in voluntary apportionments. And I will say that I feel, as a West member, and as I've just finished 6 years on the West board, a policy of voluntary apportionments is very, very different from the AEU choosing not to pursue legal action against societies which are not paying their non-voluntary apportionment. I'm sure you can imagine, as you think about interpersonal relationships in general, how that policy is a very different case. And I will say, for me personally, as a member of WES, and I'm no longer a board member, but when I was, an AEU with voluntary apportionment model would be much more attractive for me to think we should contribute to. So you've now heard representatives of two of the largest societies in the AEU, two of which are not currently paying apportionment, saying they will find it much easier to argue to pay in once this passes. So I'm done.
And that was time. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Rich Wash. 90 seconds on the clock.
Hello, Rich Wash from Asheville. We pay apportionment because we value the AEU and we value being part of something bigger than our individual society. The formula needs to change. It doesn't seem fair when apportionment varies from $6 to $140 per member. Let's get this changed to something that societies can afford to pay. A pay what you wish approach breeds resentment, not goodwill. Imagine calculating your income tax and then paying what you wish. I know I would resent my neighbor. Imagine seniors withholding their school tax because they don't have a child in the school system. We agree to fund public schools for the greater good, not because we are using a particular service. The same is with the AEU. Is this organization worth investing? This is key. If societies are not willing to invest in the AEU, why would a philanthropist be willing to do so? Withholding dues is a deed before creed. By withholding, a society is loudly declaring that they believe this organization is not worth funding. Our past trust issues are keeping us from looking forward. In conclusion, I want to be a member of an organization that is looking forward, is transparent, embodies fairness, embraces for the greater good, is sustainable, and importantly, does not breed resentment with a pay-what-you-wish approach. For these reasons, this amendment must be rejected.
And that was time.
Thank you, Rich.
Real quick, Scott.
Yes.
We are down to about 1 minute 46 seconds in that 9 minute. Add more, yeah?
Yeah, we do have more speakers on the
Okay,
list.
all right, I'll keep going then.
So we'll just keep tracking at 90 seconds each, and we'll effort to be as brief as we can. Steve, you are next on the list.
Hello, is it me? Did you call
I
on
wasn't
me?
planning to speak on this, but I found Terry's 10 minutes to be among the most inspirational and clarifying descriptions of the ethical movement that I've heard ever. So I want to thank Terry for that. The AEU already sees that mandatory apportionment results in people not paying their apportionment. A voluntary apportionment, I agree with the West proposal, will lead to better compliance. If the AEU realizes that they have to motivate the individual societies to make their payments, and B, if they're transparent. The previous speaker has mentioned the fairness issue. Right now, nobody knows what anybody else is paying. There's no transparency in what people are paying. So they can assume it's fair or assume it's unfair. We know by the publications that it's currently unfair. In any case, I think voting for the West proposal is a vote for the essence of the ethical movement.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so as a matter of process, our special rules did allow 9 minutes for discussion. We do have speakers still on the list, so are there any objections to suspending the special rules to extend time to exhaust our speakers list? Okay, seeing none, we're going to keep going. Dan Hoffman. Yeah, can we get Dan a microphone, please?
Thank you. It's really, really difficult to disagree with Steve and Terry and some of the people who are supporting this amendment. You've made good claims, good points. I trust in my heart that you're decent human beings. So there's an informal fallacy called a wedge argument. You know, you put a wedge in the block of wood, you swing it, it sticks, and then you have to take another swing. Well, that's not necessarily the case. If we say, oh yes, you have to pay your apportionment, and you look at us and say, no, we don't, the next swing to throw you out isn't a swing that anybody has proposed us taking. I have not heard that yet. I would say, hey, pretty please, guys, pay your apportionment, but I can't see myself or the Philadelphia Ethical Society saying, oh, we got to throw you guys out because you didn't pay your apportionment. And we need to take that kind of thing into consideration here. Thank you.
Thank you. Solomon. Oh, Carolyn Parker. Sorry, it's Carolyn Parker next on the list.
Right, what? Never mind. Okay, Carolyn Parker, Ethical Society of Austin. What's happening? I'm sorry, I can't tell what are they saying no?
Correct.
Right, for, again, got it, okay.
Correct, we're good.
And speaking for, I'm not sure we're ready for this. I'm not sure it's a perfectly good idea, but I'm very much for the discussion that Terry and the Washington Ethical Society have brought forward to the AEU, that we need to do some real work in our relationships with societies. The suspension of payments from the various societies often come from pain, often come from harm, often come from flaws in the relationship between our national organization and our individual societies, and there's work there to be done. And at the same time, there's something to be said about selling, about creating or stating the value proposition. Why do we want to invest in the American Ethical Union? Ethical culture is my religion. I believe in it very firmly, and I want to support it. But sometimes I don't see the brightness, the shining light that used to flame to say that why I should be investing. I hang on, I keep trying, but I think we could do a better job of that. And I think this discussion is a piece of that. Whether we are forced to pay apportionments or pay them voluntarily, we have much to learn about our relationships and why we need to maintain them and grow them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Solomon.
First, I'd like to commend all of the eloquent things that have been said, particularly Terry's presentation. I've been bouncing back and forth on this issue, and in my heart, I can agree with the amendment. Would love that idea. But as a reality, money is a practical need, not an ethical one. And as I listen to these things, what I finally boiled it down to was between these two positions was the notion that in voluntarism, the option was to essentially squeeze the societies anyway with the removal of services, or the mandatory way, which simply says, you have to pay, you have agreed to pay, please do that. And so I had to fall on the latter because I felt the former didn't feel any more ethical to me if you were simply blackmailing people into paying by saying, we're going to remove your services if you don't give us money. And so my feeling is that while I can feel in my heart the amendment, it doesn't, I haven't felt that it solves the problem as a practical nature. I don't see the notion that someone who says, I've agreed to pay, but I'm not doing it anymore because I'm not getting what I feel I'm supposed to, as changing their minds because they said, well, I don't have to pay, I'm now more willing to pay because I don't have to pay. It seems to me just one quick thing, that the AEU is in the position that has to bridge these gaps and convince the societies why they should be paying this price.
Thank you, Solomon. Next, we have Lee online. Lee, if you're still there, you will need to unmute.
Hi, I am here. Both arguments are compelling. Can you hear me? Okay.
Lee, I see that you're unmuted, but we are not hearing you in the room.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I don't know if there's a feature.
Hi, can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay, I see you waving.
You can't hear me?
There we go.
Okay. Both of your arguments are so compelling. The only thing I want to say is with the voluntary system, we are ethical societies, are we not? And if we're getting services from the AEU, it would be quite unethical to not be paying something. So my understanding is if we went to a voluntary process, that we would be given a suggested pledge or a suggested amount that we should pay. And as an ethical organization, we could say, listen, we think that's high. This is what we're proposing. And it would be a negotiation rather than a tax placed by a government organization. So if it was voluntary, it doesn't remove the fact that we would have an ethical obligation as an organization to pay for your services if you were providing those services. That's all I have to say.
And then thank you, Lee. Our final speaker is Richard Coral. We're bringing a microphone to you.
Thanks a lot. There have been some wonderful arguments both sides, but I think one really strong element has been overlooked. Many of us who've been involved in the AEU over many years think of it not as an organization, not as a foreign power, but as a community of sister societies. And we look to our sister societies for lots of things, not just services. We look for a community, and a lot of us look forward to the AEU Assembly. We look at the AEU as a model of democracy. It's a democratically run organization. And to have a democracy, you need to have a stake in the game. You need to be able to have an impact on the decisions that are made and to stand up for the consequences. I don't hear the involvement really on the budget process when member societies have an opportunity to say, no, we can't pay for that, it's too much. I understand I'm going to have to pay my fair share. I need to adjust that. No, they're saying we want to decide on the side whether we feel like we should participate. That's not the way it works. You have to really have a consequence of from the decisions that you make and be responsible. So when you talk about what is fair, it's fair as a community. What does it mean to your sister societies?
Thank you, Richard. That will conclude the discussion section for this item. Just speaking as the chair, I really appreciate the cordiality and respect I'm hearing in this room among some very diverging opinions, so I appreciate that. Recognizing that we are 15 minutes over, we have one more item on the agenda, at least one more report, which is a report out from the Ethical Education Committee. So Anne or Audrey, can you please report out so we can get to lunch?
Actually, because both Audrey and I are not only co-chairs of the committee, but on National Ethical Service, we recommend you to read our report and come and see us and talk to us, so you can enjoy the lunch. And we're also doing a fishbowl this afternoon with Ethics for Children, so please come and we'll do it that way, okay?
Okay, thank you. I did have, sure, let's applaud that. Education Committee. I did have a point of order brought up, just so everyone's clear. We did not do a motion and a second for the West Amendment because a motion has already been made previously. Am I understanding that correctly? Because it has come from a society. So per our special rules, we've completed our obligations. The motion will appear on your ballots, and you will vote on them by midnight tonight. So, yes, thank you for the question. Was there something else? Okay. Yeah, we are through our business items. Let's see. This concludes the voting items on the business agenda. Everyone in person and in Zoom, please use Election Buddy for the motions discussed today. Ballots will be sent by email and need to be submitted by the deadline. Voting will end at 11:59 Eastern Time tonight. Help is available both in person and online. Please email delegate-support@aeu.org if you need assistance. Your ballot will be emailed to you at the end of this meeting, and the subject line will say, "Vote Now, American Ethical Union." If you do not find it by 2 p.m. today, please check your spam or junk email folder or reach out to delegate-support@aeu.org. Are there any final clarifying questions on the voting process? Okay, seeing none, I would like to end this meeting by inviting our most recently certified ethical culture leader, Joseph Farkas, to offer some closing remarks.
I will abridge my remarks in the interest of getting us all to lunch, which is that in the process of studying the bylaws in my governance module, something that I went over with Greg was that no other charitable organization that I am aware of endeavors to possess an assembly the way we do. Most have gone over to an efficient, clean board which makes presumably excellent decisions quickly, efficiently, without the constant interference and discussion of something so tawdry as the membership. But assembly isn't just, we don't practice assembly because it's the most efficient or because it is the most effective. We practice assembly because it is the only ethical way to exercise the voice of the group in power. And because we are the American Ethical Union, and as we endeavor to be an ethical society, we affirm that democracy is the only ethical exercise of governance. So in keeping with our theme of ethical roots and trees, for all of its knots and burls, assembly represents a decision we make to be ethical in how we exercise our power as a group, whatever complications come up.
Thank you, Joseph. Final appreciation and gratitude to NICEC, our host today. Thank you for allowing us the use of your building and facilities. Thank you to the Assembly Committee for all of the work that has gone in to put on this successful assembly. Meetings like this don't happen by themselves. They happen because people volunteer. Thank you all for showing up and coming. Thank you, Trang, our volunteer timekeeper. Yes, round of applause for Trang, please. That's a lot of work. Emily in the back for Zoom and keeping us on track. I apologize sincerely if there's anyone I have missed, but this is a team effort. It happens because people step up and volunteer. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Can I hear ayes? Is there any nays? All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.